In my most recent video, and my first ever video, I mentioned that A Silent Voice is my second favourite movie of all time, and my favourite anime of all time. But I did specifically make sure to mention that I wasn't sure if Your Name is better or not. I loved both movies. I gave both movies 10 out of 10 or 5 stars. On Letterboxd, Your Name is higher. On my anime list, A Silent Voice is higher. It's very decisive whether or not you prefer A Silent Voice to Your Name, or if you prefer Your Name to A Silent Voice. Most people seem to be split, and when I finished both of them first time, I gave my favourite to A Silent Voice. I put it as my second favourite movie, with Parasite being third and Your Name being fourth, with of course Shawshank Redemption being number 1, which it has held since March 2021. But when my new video came out, I decided basically as soon as the video was released, and I was really happy with it getting 84 views in the first 2 days, so thank you for that. When my first video was released, I went back the same day, January 15th, 2022, and I watched both Your Name, then A Silent Voice. I finished around midnight, but I had so much fun watching both movies. Those almost 4 hours of just anime, I loved it, and I finished it, and I had an answer. So I decided a good next video to be would be A Silent Voice versus Your Name, to try and decide which one I prefer. So in this video, I will be talking about both movies, breaking them down individually, and then giving my final thoughts on Your Name versus A Silent Voice. Which one is better, where they place on my top 5 list, spoiler alert, both in my top 5 list, and do either of them pass Shawshank Redemption to become my favourite film of all time. Your Name was released on November 18th, 2016, and is currently available on Netflix in the United Kingdom. It has a Rotten Tomatoes score of 98% out of 100, which is extremely high, very rare for movies to get that high, and has a MyAnimeList score of 8.88 out of 10, which makes it the 22nd most successful anime on there. The movie was praised by a lot of people, including myself, and when I watched it for the first time, I gave it 10 out of 10. I had a lot of fun watching it, and I decided, well, after my most recent videos released, I need to rewatch them both. I watched Your Name first, and in those 1 hour and 42 minutes, I had a blast watching it. But if you don't know what the movie is about, I'll explain it now. In Your Name, we have two main characters, Mitsuha and Taki. Mitsuha lives in the small village of Itomori, Japan, while Taki lives in the capital of Tokyo. Every night when they go to sleep, they swap places, but they initially think it's a dream, as most people would. As a comet slowly gets closer and closer, they slowly realize that it isn't a dream. They tell each other rules to try and make their lives a bit more manageable, but it slowly gets more difficult. Taki goes on a date which Mitsuha sets up while she is him. The date doesn't go as planned, but as it starts you can see Mitsuha's crying when she is in her body. You can tell that she clearly likes Taki. They keep swapping places with the reoccurring gag of Taki touching Mitsuha's boobs when he is her. Eventually the comet passes and they stop swapping places. After a while, Taki decides to go on the search for Itomori to try and see Mitsuha. He doesn't even know the name of the village that she lives in. He spends a full day looking around the area that he knows very well. Eventually he gives up. He sits at a restaurant and the waitress recognizes the drawing as Itomori. This is where he learns that Itomori was destroyed 3 years ago by the comet splitting through the air. He goes through a hell of a lot of feelings, and he goes through the book of fatalities from the restaurant and he sees Mitsuha's name. He starts thinking he's crazy before realizing his wristband, which he remembers that he got off her when she came to see him before he knew her. He goes to her shrine and drinks some of her sake, and collapses, causing him to be her again. He goes on a mission to save her town as Mitsuha turns back to Taki. This is where she realizes that she's dead and her town is gone. Taki as Mitsuha sets up a plan to blow up power generators and put out an announcement that they need to go to the school, which is in the safe zone of the comet. Taki realizes that he might be able to see Mitsuha and goes to the top of the mountain at magic hour. They finally meet and it's just such a great scene as they're finally able to be together. Mitsuha says that they should write down each other's name on their hand, but just as she writes one line, magic hour ends. Mitsuha's back in her body now and she goes to finish the plan, but when she is running home she falls over and knocks herself out. My favourite part of the movie comes up. She comes to and notices that Taki put I love you on her hand. She gets a bit annoyed at him, saying that she won't be able to remember his name and this doesn't really help, but she manages to save the town by setting off the explosion and getting her dad, the mayor, to finally trust her. Almost everyone in the town survives by getting to the safe distance, and it cuts 5 years into the future. The explosion has happened and they'd slowly forgotten about each other. They don't know about each other at all. Taki is living in Tokyo still, but he sees people he recognizes. He recognizes the names of Mitsuha's friends, and he can tell he's forgotten something, but he doesn't know what. He walks past them multiple times and they both seem to be in shock looking at each other, but they don't know where from. Eventually, as they walk up either side of a staircase, Taki finally breaks and asks if they know each other. She says she felt the same thing, and they both ask each other for their names as the movie ends. Your Name is absolutely amazing. I actually preferred it on the second viewing, as I wasn't eager to finish it. When I first watched Your Name, I was planning on starting my journey to learn Japanese, which isn't exactly going very well, but I was planning on starting that immediately afterwards, so I wanted to finish as quick as possible. But I did get through it the first time, and I loved it. I gave it 9 out of 10 initially, but that's because I didn't actually get to the end. I cut off when I thought it was the end, but it wasn't. But when I realized it was the ending and finished it, I gave it 10 out of 10. I watched it for the first time on December the 17th, 2021. It's going to be hard for A Silent Voice to beat on this second viewing, as it's easily in my top 5 and is 100% a 5-star movie. But could A Silent Voice defeat one of the greatest animes of all time, in my opinion? So when I first watched A Silent Voice on November 26, 2021, I absolutely loved it. I even considered it putting above The Shawshank Redemption on my favourite movies list. And that's not common. This was probably the only movie I've ever actually considered putting above Shawshank Redemption since it took that spot in May 2021. But I placed it second in the end. The film was released on March 15th, 2017 and has a 95% on Rotten Tomatoes. It has an 8.96 score on MyAnimeList, which makes it the 14th highest rated anime on the site. So this does mean that on Rotten Tomatoes, Your Name is the better movie, but on MyAnimeList, A Silent Voice is better. But all that matters today is what I think. I think both are 5 stars 100%. But is the fact that my girlfriend recommended the movie to me the reason that I put A Silent Voice above it originally? Is it the reason I even gave it 5 stars? Foreshadowing, it's definitely 5 stars. The movie is almost perfect. But is it better than Your Name? We also have 2 main characters in A Silent Voice, Shoya and Shoko. Shoko is a deaf kid that Shoya used to bully. Shoya is getting ready to kill himself once he is an adult, and he remembers as a kid when he used to bully her. He messed her up so bad that she moved schools. A firework distracts Shoya as he goes to jump off a bridge, and all of the memories come back. He was bullying Shoko and all of the blame fell on his shoulders and he became an outcast. Shoya goes to a sign language club where he sees Shoko again, I'm assuming for the first time in a long time. He introduces himself and she looks at him conflicted before running away. He chases after her and gives back the notebook that he destroyed. The next morning as he sits around the table, his mother simply asks him, why does he want to kill himself? This is one of my favourite bits from the movie as he answers honestly without even batting an eye that just life is tough. His mother understandably freaks out and threatens to burn all the money he gave her if he does. He begs her not to burn it, but she accidentally lights it on fire. In school, Shoya sees a kid named Tomohiro getting robbed of his bike. He doesn't know what to do, but eventually goes up and offers his bike to the bully. Shoya wants to go and see Shoko, but the bike's gone. Maybe this is a sign. He ends up walking there instead, and a kid answers the door. This kid's name is Yuzuru. Yuzuru says that Miss Shoko is not here, even though Shoya can clearly see her. The door gets slammed in his face. Shoya goes to walk home when he sees Tomohiro, who had found his bike. Shoya slowly realizes he finally has made a friend. The next day he goes to see Shoko again, but Yuzuru says that she is Shoko's boyfriend. Shoya gets a bit flustered, but just before he leaves, Tomohiro jumps in and starts demanding to Yuzuru that Shoya gets to see Shoko. Eventually Shoya runs away from embarrassment, but Shoko chases after him. They have a talk on a bridge as Yuzuru and Tomohiro watch, where Shoya and Shoko become friends at last. Shoko goes to read the notebook, but Shoya throws it in the river to stop her from seeing all the mean stuff that was written in it. Shoko then suddenly jumps into the river and Shoya jumps in after her. Shoya gets suspended from school for jumping off the bridge, which is prohibited. While he's suspended, he takes his sister-daughter Maria to the park. Inside the structure, he sees Yuzuru asleep. They talk and Yuzuru comes to stay with Shoya. Yuzuru had ran away from home and tries to leave again during the night, but Shoya follows Yuzuru. He walks Yuzuru home, and when they get there, Yuzuru reveals that she is actually Shoko's little sister, not boyfriend. As Yuzuru goes to walk into her house, Shoko's mother walks past her and goes up to Shoya and slaps him in the face for all the stuff he did when they were a kid. The next time Shoya and Shoko are together, Shoya tries to get Shoko's number, but she says she wants Sahara's number, the only kid who was nice to her in school. They go to find Sahara, and it doesn't take long to find her. They become friends immediately, and Shoya goes off to find Ueno, one of the kids he was friends with but also bullied Shoko. After they see each other again, Ueno sees Shoko across the street and once again starts to make fun of her. When Ueno realizes that Shoya and Shoko are friends, she laughs and leaves. Shoya and Shoko go onto their signature bridge, and Shoko starts to talk without her sign language. Shoya asks if she can use sign, and Shoko finally realizes her voice is weird. She gives Shoya a gift and suddenly says, "I love you," 3 times. But due to her voice, Shoya doesn't understand her. Shoko goes home disappointed and sad, tells Yuzuru what happened over messages, but you can just tell how disappointed she is. Shoya and everyone, including Shoko, go to the park and they go on all the rides. Shoya even questions if he's allowed to have this much fun. After seeing Kazuki, his old friend, he says he probably hates Ueno. Ueno suddenly takes Shoko onto the Ferris wheel. Yuzuru records on a camera and it shows Yuzuru saying she hates Shoko and hitting her. Shoyo starts trying to get Shoko to like herself, and he starts spending almost every day with her, including helping Yuzuru and Shoko make their mother's birthday cake. Shoya, Shoko, Yuzuru and their mother go to a fireworks show. Just as it starts, Shoko goes home to study, and Yuzuru asks if Shoya can go and get the camera from the home. This begins the saddest scene from the movie, and my favorite scene from any movie ever. Shoya enters the house and sees Shoko watching the fireworks from the balcony. Shoko suddenly starts to climb the ledge. Shoya tries to call, but she can't hear him. He tries to run to get to her, but he falls over the table. Shoya just about grabs her hand as she jumps. He pleads to God to let him get her up, and she grabs onto the ledge to try and help him. He manages to pull her up, but instead he falls in the process. Shoya falls into a coma, and while he's there, Ueno bullies Shoko even more, not letting her see Shoya. Shoko slowly tries to make friends with Ueno, but it doesn't work at all. Yuzuru and Shoko's mother thanks and apologizes to Shoya's mother. I believe this is also the first time Shoya's mother even realizes that he didn't try to kill himself, he was actually trying to save Shoko. As Shoko goes to the bridge crying, still blaming herself, Shoya wakes up and goes to her. He apologizes for what he did as a kid and asks her if she can help him live. He goes back to school and tries to look everyone in the eye, but it takes him a while. Eventually, they get Ueno to go away when she tries to make fun of Shoko using sign language, but all the Shoko cares about is that she actually learns sign language. They'll go to a festival as Shoya looks around, realizing that he doesn't have any enemies anymore, no one hates him, and tears just falling out of his eyes as the movie ends. I love this movie. It's the most emotional film I have ever seen before, and that's not a bad thing. I decided to take a picture in the middle of the film, and I'm not showing it in this video because I haven't even shown my face yet, but I took a picture in this film and I even sent it to my best friend, the one I mentioned in the previous video, Maya. I actually got permission now to use her name. I took a picture and I sent it to her showing how sad this film makes me, and I didn't cry as much as I did on the first viewing, but that's because I already knew the ending. But in the scene where Shoko goes to kill herself, my whole body was shaking, I was crying, it was insane. I love this movie. But, unlike Your Name, I think I preferred it on the first viewing. But it's time to make comparisons between the two classics. So after watching these movies back to back on January the 15th, and enjoying both insanely, I can confirm to you I have a final opinion on which I preferred. So while I watched these films, my eyes had tears in them a lot during A Silent Voice, but I also did cry a bit during Your Name. Once I finished Your Name, I wasn't actually sure if I was even going to watch A Silent Voice due to the time of rape being 10 PM. But I did stay up until midnight, and I pulled through, and I loved A Silent Voice again, of course. But for my thoughts about the films. While I preferred the second viewing of Your Name to the first, and I didn't prefer the second viewing of Silent Voice to the first, both are still in my top 5 list. Taki and Mitsu are my 2 favourite characters ever, even beating Toka from Tokyo Ghoul. But the story in A Silent Voice is better than the story in Your Name. I've seen bad reviews for Your Name just because the story doesn't really make much sense, but I think the animation makes up for that film and the amazing character work makes up for it, even though I love the story. Shoya and Shoko have a very cute relationship and it's a lot more realistic, and the scene where Shoko goes to kill herself is my favourite scene ever. I will 100% watch both of these films again this year. I'll definitely watch A Silent Voice on October 24th, and I had a lot more fun during Your Name. It's completely unrealistic, but not being way too outlandish like shows such as Darling in the Franxx. That's right, Maya, I said it. I think the show makes completely no sense, but it's still good. So now I can officially confirm to you I did prefer Your Name to A Silent Voice. So I think I should end this video by saying my top 5 favorite movies list. Not just anime, just my top 5 favorite movies. In at number 5, I only just realized that this is my favorite horror movie, Shaun of the Dead. It's still at number 5, which is what it was before this video. It's the greatest comedy I've ever seen, and it's just a really fun movie altogether. In at number 4, A Silent Voice. It's gone down 2 places. It was in at number 2 before, just behind The Shawshank Redemption. I love the movie, but due to the fact I already knew the ending, it kind of took it away from me. Still at number 3, it's Parasite. The best live action film that's not in English I've ever seen by far. But now for the important one. My top 2. Will Shawshank Redemption retain the spot over Your Name? A difficult decision between these 2 movies. So in at number 2 though, it is indeed The Shawshank Redemption, which means in at number 1, my favourite movie currently, Your Name. It's just so fun. It may not be the greatest film I've ever made. I actually still believe Shawshank is the greatest, but Your Name is my favourite. Thank you all for watching. My name's been Jaden from Codename Antaiku, and I'll see you all again very soon in the next video. Please comment some video ideas, because I might need them. And I'll see you all again very soon in the next video. Goodbye, everybody.